Aloha aina, and welcome to Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Ehukekahu Cardwell, and here we are in Thomas Square for Hawaiian Restoration Day, Kala Ho'iho'iea 2006. And we're very privileged to have Andre Perez on the show. Andre, aloha.
Aloha aina.
How are you? Good to have you on the show.
Good.
Good. So today is Hawaiian Restoration Day, and I know you've been a very big part of what occurred today, as well as being a very big part, one of the principals of an organization called Huipu.
Right.
You're one of the very highly committed people in the Hawaiian movement today. And so first of all, tell us what brought you here today to Thomas Square to observe Kala Ho'iho'iea.
Well, they needed tents and someone to cook food and coolers and tables and chairs and a lot of kokua.
Yeah. No.
But
seriously now,
but
folks.
seriously,
what inspired you to be here?
Kala Ho'iho'iea is Sovereignty Restoration Day. And I guess what inspires me to be here is as we celebrate sovereignty restoration, it's this. We also have to be aware of the dichotomy that we're still waiting for America to restore our sovereignty and to deoccupy Hawaii. So part of it is to continue the ku'e of our ancestors, continue that voice of and that action of resistance and never acquiescing to U.S. domination and oppression, and to continue the cry for freedom and justice.
Great. Now, how long have you been in the movement, working on this stuff?
Not long. When I first started becoming conscious, it was more of a cultural consciousness, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel very fortunate to add my name to the list of those who came through the Kaho'olawe movement. Mm-hmm. Although at a later time I got involved with the cleanup, and at that time, right prior to me coming into the Kaho'olawe cleanup, I was coming off the streets of Waianae, Macau, where I was homeless for a while, and that started to give me some consciousness, and I realized that being homeless or houseless is something that our people are facing every day for a very long periods of time, a lot longer than I had faced it for. And it gave me a deep-seated understanding, awareness, and consciousness of what's happening to our people and the struggle and how hard it is to survive in our own homeland.
So what was the beginning of your awakening?
Probably 8 years in the U.S. military. Right out of high school, I had... My parents were coming off a generational colonization, yeah? Mm-hmm. So my parents weren't not supportive, but they didn't really know better to emphasize education to their children, to me and my sister and my brother. So, I got out of high school, and my mother actually encouraged me, join the military. It's a good, they'll teach you a skill. They'll teach you, discipline, and they'll pay you and feed you, And so, to me, at that young age, that was a career lifestyle alternative to just staying home and cruising on the beach with the brothers. Because also my lack of consciousness, I wasn't thinking about college or higher education at that time. So I did 8 years in the service. And I started to see how they behave and operate, and I experienced it firsthand, and I started having these, nothing will give you a consciousness for your home and your people than being away from them for a long time.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So when I came home, eventually got out of the service, and although they had given me an education, so-called education, and paid me and fed me and clothed me. No sooner did I get out of the military on June 19th, 1996, I was homeless, living on the streets and stuff. So I went down to the Waianae Coast where I felt that it was more conducive for me to not be criminalized as being houseless or homeless. It felt safer. It felt more grassroots out there, and I was fortunate to get back on my feet in a relatively short time, and from there I realized I was seeing the drugs and some of the socio-economic challenges, and I tried really, really hard, and I got this job on Kaho'olawe. And I think that kind of was the beginning, of where I got really exposed to a lot of the people like, Makanani and Skippy and Soli, and I learned about who all these guys were, Kalekoa, of course Emmett, and the PKO, and it was the beginnings of a cultural consciousness for me, becoming an apprentice or Haumana practitioner, and really connecting to my roots and really kind of shedding, decolonizing some of the stuff that had been impressed upon me with the military, but it was more of a traditional ceremony, cultural perspective.
Yeah. So you got hired on to help out with the Kaho'olawe cleanup.
Right. I got hired on by the Kirk as initially as a monitor for the cleanup.
Yeah.
Kind of act as the eyes and ears for the Kirk in the field, for the Navy's cleanup. But eventually they reorganized, and I was phased into environmental restoration. So we were in charge with pretty much restoring Kaho'olawe with native plants, erosion control, alien species control, all that good stuff, managing volunteer programs.
Yeah, great. So you were in the military, which was
right.
highly structured.
Right.
Then you were houseless, which was kind of highly
unstructured. Right.
And then you went to Kaho'olawe.
Right.
What was that like when you first hit the island?
Well, immediately I felt ashamed to have ever been a part of the U.S. military. I felt regretful and ashamed that in some way I had a connection or association to all forms of desecration with the U.S. military training and bombing and destruction of the Aina. Yeah, I was a part of that machine, but it also gave me a higher level of consciousness in that I wanted to make a difference. Somehow redeem myself, get redemption, and give a personal form of restitution to the Aina. Yeah? Mm-hmm. So in a way, it had a very positive effect and gave me a deep-seated drive and fire and passion to make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Tell us what it's like to be on that island. What's the experience like?
Kaho'olawe, the experience is I remember when I was in high school in my so-called Hawaiian history class, which was all of a semester, they had the textbook, and there was the chapter on Kaho'olawe was one paragraph about maybe 5 lines, and I think it was the desolate island, talked about the failed ranching effort, there was no water, and that was it. So they paint this picture of Kaho'olawe being useless and desolate and uninhabitable. And when I went there, one of the first things that I learned was that Kaho'olawe is a very beautiful place if you know how to look, if you look through the right eyes and look for the right things, and if you have placed the proper value on the proper things. It's a beautiful, powerful, deeply spiritual island, and it was moving, and I feel Kaho'olawe is a place where awakenings occur.
Yeah, so you were certainly awakened there, weren't you?
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
I know a lot of others that were.
Yeah.
So how long did you spend with the Kaho'olawe cleanup?
I worked for the Kaho'olawe Island Reserve Commission for about 6.5 years. Long time. Yeah. And out of all the staff, I probably spent more time in the field, logged more hours on Kaho'olawe during that time than anybody else. When I first got hired, I was the only restoration technician. So I was out there every week, Monday through Thursday. So, living part-time on the island and, planting thousands and tens of thousands of native plants and, meeting a lot of Hawaiians who came through the island, establishing contacts and relationships, and trying to foster other people, other Kanakas to establish a relationship with Kaho'olawe. That was the goal, yeah, to get people connected to the island So we come back, we have this relationship where we come back to Malama, the island, and it carries on and continues to the next generations.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously we've all heard people's experience who have been on the island, and it absolutely spills over. It's not contained by Kaho'olawe anymore.
No.
But it's pervasive, not only throughout the rest of the Kapai Aina, but also it has invaded and is pervasive throughout the people.
Right.
I mean, it's like infectious.
That's right. I think what started as the Kaho'olawe struggle,
yes.
the struggle for Kaho'olawe has transcended Kaho'olawe.
Yes.
Yeah, and it didn't stop with Kaho'olawe,
Yeah.
and it never should. We got to continue fighting, because we not only do we stop the bombing of Kaho'olawe, but we got to ensure that this never happens again.
Yeah.
We got to protect and make sure that the U.S. doesn't continue to do this elsewhere. Yeah, it's very important to understand as the United States was handing back 28,000 of contaminated acres of Kaho'olawe, they were simultaneously snatching approximately 26,000 largely uncontaminated acres off Pohakuloa and Schofield for the Stryker Brigade. So was Kaho'olawe a win or a gain? I think so. From a cultural, spiritual
Sure.
desecration standpoint, we stopped the desecration. But the battle's not over. The struggle's not over. It doesn't stop with Kaho'olawe because the United States is not stopping.
Yeah. So, Andre, how did your experience on Kaho'olawe change you?
Kaho'olawe, my experience out there gave me a better relationship with the land. It gave me a deeper understanding of our place and our relationship and where we fit in the scheme of man, gods, and nature. Yeah, Aina, Kanaka, and Akua. So it gave me a sense of place, a sense of being, a sense of kuleana. Yeah, I knew where my parameters were as a Kanaka human being on this Aina, and it gave me a higher sense of proper attitude and behavior, and it changed my perspective. And I'll tell you one very, very powerful thing that happened to me on Kaho'olawe. When I went there to Kaho'olawe, in my young, maybe arrogant, naive perspective, I thought they're going to go there to clean the island from bombs and restore it. I want to be part of that healing. That was the buzzword, healing the island. I want to be a part of that. I want to contribute. I want to make a difference to the healing of Kaho'olawe. Yeah? But then over time, I started to have these experiences and awakenings and consciousness and feelings and emotions and clarity in my own life and my own ohane and spirit, and I started to realize who's healing who.
Yeah.
And how arrogant of me to think as a Kanaka I'm going to go heal this Akua Kanaloa. Yeah. When really what I've worked very hard to try to find a way to articulate this, but what I feel is what we're doing is we're helping the island to heal itself. Kaho'olawe, being the spiritual embodiment of Kanaloa, yeah, a living spiritual being, who one of his kuleanas was healing, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the ancient names of the island was Kanaloa.
Yeah, Kohe Malama Lama O Kanaloa, yeah,
right, exactly.
The shining vagina of Kanaloa, the beginnings of life,
Yes.
the Kumulipo, yeah.
Yes.
So, as I grew spiritually and intellectually, I started to think. I realized who's healing who, yeah, and I started to realize and understand and acknowledge that as we attempt to heal Kaho'olawe, really in turn, we as a people are being healed, and we're being rejuvenated and reactivated, and we starting to kind of cleanse some of these Western values and perspectives that we're born into, and Kaho'olawe. Kaho'olawe, also interesting enough, Kaho'olawe, the word means to carry away. Yeah,
the taking away.
The taking away. And so for me, it was taking away a lot of this, bullshit that I grew up with and I was taught in the DOE, in America's education system.
Yeah.
And I started to take away that and left behind my pure a purer sense of Kanaka-ness, perspective, understanding of who we are, how we relate to the Aina, how the Aina relates to us, and our kuleana.
So it sounds like it kind of, if I can put words in your mouth here, it kind of washed all the poisons out of your body and your being.
Right.
And it left you
cleansed.
Cleansed. Yeah.
Kaho'olawe acted as a cleansing catalyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I walked in different shoes with new perspective, and I held my chin a little bit higher. My back was just a little straighter, and I felt some sense of identity, belonging, and pride. That was a large part of my beginnings. And I was fortunate to cross paths with some of my mentors and teachers today. That I honor for taking me under their wing. Auntie Hokulani Holt Padilla, who really started me on the journey of Hawaiian spirituality, ritual and ceremony, and Kalekoa, who deepened that perspective of Hawaiian spirituality and added a strong political element to it, And of course Skippy, who taught me about Aina perspectives, and about understanding how we walk as human beings and how we interact. And one of my good friends and po'os for my men's culture group, Halimua Kamana Opono Crab. Also, I crossed paths with him on Kaho'olawe. All these people have lended to my own personal spiritual, intellectual growth.
Wow, quite a journey so far.
Quite a journey, and very, very privileged and fortunate to have that path laid out before me.
Yeah, all right. Andre, let's now talk about Huipu. And Huipu is an organization that was created primarily to oppose the Akaka Bill.
Right.
And so you got involved in Huipu when?
In the beginning, when Skippy and a guy named Charlie and a guy named Palikapu came down and said, "Hey, we got to do something about this Akaka
Bill." Put
out
the call.
We got to put out the call.
Yeah.
So I met with them, and we talked about it. Said let's have a meeting. Let's put the call out to everybody and see if we can unify to gain strength and solidarity to form a mass of people that will compensate for the lack of resources that we have as we're going up against the institutions like OHA and Senator Zinoi. We don't have any type of power and resources to go against them. So we had to create our resources of the people. So I immediately saw the value in that and was eager, and I saw the dangers of the Akaka Bill. And the one thing that I think I did that probably benefited me the most and gave me the most clarity was I picked up the bill and I read it. And you don't have to be a lawyer to understand, or you don't have to be a legal expert to understand that when the United States is trying to say that Native Hawaiians are Native Americans indigenous to America, it's pretty clear to me that that's unacceptable. So
this ain't rocket science.
Yeah, this ain't rocket science. Yeah, this is
common sense.
Common sense. Suppression, oppression. Predetermination.
Yeah.
So I helped organize the very first Huipu meeting. I made a flyer. Skippy, a call from Skippy. I sent it out, and Terry Keko'olani started the Huipu email list. We talked with John Osorio and Center for Hawaiian Studies to get use of the halal, and we put the call out to everybody.
So you guys networked.
We networked.
Where's our resources? How, like you said. Right. How can we? We're the Davids. They're the Goliaths.
Right.
How can we build our resources?
How do we compensate?
Yeah.
Right.
Very smart.
Very smart. And Skippy was instrumental. Skippy was the catalyst, because Skippy came down and utilized his relationships, his credibility, and his friendships with everybody. And he went down and met with the reinstated guys. He went down and met with Bumpy guys. He met with Kekuni, and he really. Skippy flew in and did a lot of one-on-ones and got him to come down to the meeting, And we had our first Huipu meeting. We had a lot of people there from the whole spectrum of the sovereignty movement.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we could agree upon was that the Akaka Bill was no good for us. It wasn't our choice. It wasn't determined by us. And that it was something that OHA was pushing which was in their agenda and not born out of the people.
Yeah.
And that was one thing that we all agreed upon, despite our many differences in what self-determination or sovereignty means. We did know that the Akaka Bill meant that we would not have sovereignty or self-determination.
Yeah.
So we unified and we started, we organized, and then we mobilized.
Yep. And so mobilization came to a head on a day, June 7th of this year. The day before the bill, the cloture vote was taken on the bill back in Washington, D.C., in the U.S. Senate, you guys, Huipu, actually mobilized and took over Iolani Palace, didn't you?
That's right.
Yeah. And you did that to express publicly your frustration and opposition to the Akaka bill.
Exactly. What we realized was that it was already too late. The vote was going down in the Senate. Anything locally here, as far as education and stuff, it was too late. We needed to reach Washington, D.C. We needed to get the message across the ocean through all the institutional barriers to Washington, D.C., and to let the Congress know that OHA doesn't speak for the people. They're speaking for themselves. Senator...
the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
I'm sorry, yeah, Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Yeah. Governor Lingo has no business up there lobbying for the Akaka bill on behalf of Hawaiians. She's never talked to us. And neither has the two senators. But one thing, that really gave me a strong perspective how we kind of came up with this idea was earlier this March, I went to Puerto Rico to represent the Huipu. And I met with the Puerto Rican independence movement, various aspects, and I went to Vieques, and I saw their level of ku'e, and I saw how passionate and how much more intense that they were. And they told me a story about a guy named, I believe, Tito, a gentleman who flew up. They had a plan. They flew up to New York, went into the Statue of Liberty, and unfurled the Puerto Rican flag across the face of the Statue of Liberty. And I thought, and we were having a Huipu meeting to figure out how we were going to reach D.C., how we were going to just get our last ku'e message out and try to reach D.C. And I said, why don't we go take the palace and unfurl banners and flags? If the Puerto Ricans can fly over to New York and unfurl their flag across the face of the Statue of Liberty, surely we can fly the Hawaiian flag in protest at our palace, Iolani Palace. Yeah, and so we planned and strategized how we were going to do that, and we organized a small group. And when the day came, we walked right into Iolani Palace and right up to the second floor, unfurled our banners and our flags, and our purpose was to utilize sort of guerrilla media tactics, grassroots, no budget, dollar, and get, be heard in D.C.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, as they were in the middle of the vote, the message came through in the halls of the Senate that there's a group of Hawaiians occupying Iolani Palace in protest of the Akaka bill. I'm not going to say that it was us. We're the reason why the Akaka bill was defeated, but I would surely hope that it made a difference.
Well, it certainly was part of it.
Right.
Certainly
sure.
was part of it.
Right.
You bet it made a difference. Big
And
difference.
I know that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs continually tries to marginalize us and say that we're a vocal minority and we're a small group and we don't represent the people. And I say to OHA, you're an even smaller minority. There's only 7 of you guys. The trustees. Huipu, we represent a broad coalition of the sovereignty movement, of educators, of attorneys, of farmers, of kings and queens in the sovereignty movement, leaders, and we were able to gather close to 2,000 signatures in a very short time, in a matter of weeks, in opposition to the Akaka bill. We're not a small minority.
No.
We're the people's voice.
Exactly.
We're we are the people, and as much as they try to marginalize us, they only empower us.
Exactly. Well, let's tell it like it is. Huipu and organizations like you are the people's voice.
That's right.
OHA is not the people's voice.
That's right.
And Kauinoa is a sham, a fake. It's not the people's voice.
Kauinoa is a fraud. And what I say now to Kauinoa is, Kauinoa, place your name so we know who to blame. Yeah, for the loss of our independence, of our self-determination, and of our sovereignty.
That would make a great T-shirt.
That's right.
Place your name
so we know who to blame. Yeah, you know when how proud our Kanakas feel now when they can look back to the Ku'e petitions, and how proud we feel when we can find our kupuna's name on the petition saying Aole to annexation. Yeah. Yes. Now, you know, how shame are those people going to be when they look back and they find their kupuna's name on the Kau Inoa sellout? Make some effort to learn a little bit about the issues and contact us. Contact the Huipu directly. www.huipu.org.
Say it one more time.
www.huipu.org. The beauty of the Huipu is we welcome anyone who is in support of preserving our self-determination and our ability to determine our future and our destiny on our terms.
So it doesn't have to be Hawaiian?
No, it doesn't have to be Hawaiian.
So even a guy like me could join?
Absolutely.
Boy, if they let me in, they'll let anyone. Huh?
But the Huipu is about preserving our choice, our self-determination, our vision of sovereignty and self-determination on our terms. Everything that OHA is pushing is on their terms or the U.S.'s terms or both.
From the top down.
From the top down. Even this new OHA nation plan, read it. You'll see that it's from the top down. The people come in after they establish. As a matter of fact, the people are coming in after they've already made a decision to form a nation.
Sure.
So it's ass backwards. Now they tried to drive the Kakabil car into the garage. It didn't fit. So now they're going to try and reverse it in. And again, it's not the people. It's OHA's unilateral move. And we really gotta put it into perspective. What, you know, I'll say this to all Hawaiians out there listening and supporters and people. What do we want to be? How are we going to self-identify ourselves? Are we going to be in control of our own self-concept, or do we want to become Americans?
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. Andre, that's phenomenal. Please keep up the great work you're doing. You're an inspiration to all of us. You're a great role model for the people of Hawaii, especially the young people.
Right.
And mahalo for the work you're doing. Mahalo for taking over the palace. Mahalo for getting the message to D.C. and helping to defeat that bad bill.
Right. I just want to say in closing to the community, has anybody ever asked you if you wanted OHA to represent you for the Akaka bill or for the new OHA nation now? Has anybody ever asked you if that's what you wanted as a Kanaka for your future? If you cannot answer that question, you better think about it. You better do something about it.
And that's where we have to leave it. This is Voices of Truth, one-on-one with Hawaii's future, brought to you by the Kiwani Foundation. I'm Mehu Kekahu Cardwell. And until next time, ahui ho!